Do we want to set any parameters for this in terms of male, female?
Yeah, that thought came to my head. I don't think so. Let's just draft the best players on the board.
Just let us cook.
Yeah, let us cook. Best players on the board. What's your 1-1?
It's Bill Murray.
It's
He
always
is the
been.
best post SNL career. Think about him directly after SNL came on during the second season and not in this movie, notably Saturday Night, comes in after Chevy Chase departs following the first season. And he does after SNL, he's launching with Stripes. Even before that, he had Caddyshack in the supporting role, right? He goes on to become in Ghostbusters, one of the best comedic actors we've ever had. And then he does What About Bob? And then he does what else was it? Groundhog Day. That starts to shift from him as just a comedic actor into more of the dramatic realm. Then eventually, like kind of like a career defining moment when he does Lost in Translation with Sofia Coppola. He's doing movies, over 10 movies with uh, Wes Anderson, right? Creating relationships with established auteurs, iconic auteurs. I think he is easily the one who has also not only had success, but sustained success. Like that is pretty much unmatched by anyone in the history of SNL. So I think he is the easiest 1-1 pick.
And it's just again, like I alluded to it at the beginning. It's Bill Murray. In the Bear, Cousins like it's Bill freaking Murray. Like it's just
Yeah.
he's an icon. He's more than just an actor. Like he's just Bill Murray. So I think it's a 1-1 as well, just from the overall portfolio here, overall career, and then some. It's just Bill Murray.
He's kind of like, I mean, Robin Williams. He's kind of like Robin
Yeah,
Williams. You
that's a
know,
good that's a good comp.
Robin Williams wasn't on SNL, okay, but obviously stand-up comedian that kind of transitions and proves he can do it all. He can get nominated for Oscars, right? I think Bill Murray's only been nominated once. I think it was for Lost in Translation.
I think you're right.
But he's so good in so many other roles. Like he is like an icon beyond SNL, okay, and really made something of himself. And like he was so successful. People like sometimes like don't associate him with SNL whatsoever. That's how good he was afterwards. So easiest 1-1 pick, Ricky Flex. What's your first rounder?
We're going personal the entire draft. This is just like
Hmm.
me. I'm 27 years old. Who do I know? Adam Sandler. This is a
Okay.
guy. This is a guy, dude. His run is crazy. So at five seasons on SNL, 91 to 95, and then holy crap, dude, Happy Gilmore the next year, The Water Boy, Big Daddy, Mr. Deeds, Anger Management. Like this guy just went on an absolute heater. Awesome comedic run. Obviously you can go back and do Wedding Singer. You could freaking talk about other like him being with the Safdies and Uncut Gems. Paul Thomas Anderson, Punch Drunk Glove in the early 2000s. He even dabbles now in Meyer, like again, Uncut Gems. I mentioned the dramatic acting, Meyerowitz Story with Noah Baumbach. Like this guy's, and also is obviously hugely talented from SNL. So it's not like so surprising, but still, like this guy has like width to his like acting ability, which I really like appreciate. So Adam Sandler, he's my guy. I got him at 2.
So SNL, Adam Sandler, we have a relationship with because we have DVDs of Adam Sandler, right, from SNL. That was like our relationship with it. We weren't really watching it live on Saturday night growing up, but we would have like the Adam Sandler DVD and we'd have the John Belushi DVD and we watch, I think, Alec Baldwin doing skits and things like that. That was on in our house. Like after we got the DVD, we watched it and kind of forgot about it. But Adam Sandler was a huge presence in our childhood. But like right after SNL, you talked about it, like mid 90s, he kind of had a bitter breakup with SNL. And he left early, like people saying he was way too premature in leaving SNL. Like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore takes him into like another comedic stratosphere, becomes the focal point of comedic movies, and really hasn't moved from the focal point of comedic movies, right? There's a dying of the comedy, obviously, and like they're lesser seen on the big screen now, but someone that you can see making one in the future is Adam Sandler. His deal with Netflix, massively successful, and he's just an icon. He's an icon. And
Bill
whenever he
Murray, yeah.
does something that's not comedic, right, people are like interested because it's like, hey, he has shown that he does have chops, whether it be Punch Drunk Love, whether it be Uncut Gems, right? He had Spaceman earlier this year that no one watched, right? Bad example, but when he does something that is a little bit non-comedic, people are locked in. Talks about it, like it speaks to his success and how good of a performer he is. So he's lasted the test of time.
Yeah, and someone that has done that as well in a much more limited capacity, but still has done it, is my number 2 pick, and that's Will Ferrell.
Wow, you went Farrell. Okay.
Yeah, I told you this is personal. I might be climbing up, I might be reaching, but you know what? Will Ferrell's similar. You know, right after Sandler leaves, 95, who comes on board? Will Ferrell, and for 7 years, SNL legend, right? But again, this draft's after SNL, and this guy, Anchorman, what's it called? Old School, Talladega Nights, Step Brothers. I'm missing one big one.
Wedding
in the
Crashers.
2000s. But just like this guy went on, also like the era of the comedies, like the last great era of comedic movies, he was at the center of. So, and then you can keep going. Elf, that's the big one I forgot. Elf. So this guy, Will Ferrell, last of like the golden generation of comedy movies. He was at the center of, and I would say he's also that icon figure like a Adam Sandler, like a Bill Murray. You see him at a USC frat party DJing. You see him at a Dodger game, like just a revolutionary figure in Hollywood. He's my number 2 pick.
Yeah, larger than life type of figure like Sandler. He was the one. He kind of fell off before when Sandler didn't. Sandler feels more relevant than Farrell. Sandler still keeps making movies consistently. Farrell just had the documentary about him and an SNL writer that went trans at the beginning of the pandemic. Them on a road trip. That's on Netflix now. I haven't seen it. I don't know the title off the top of my head, but that is something that I'll definitely check out because it is Will Ferrell. You know, but Will Ferrell also from SNL, that was like late 90s, like early 2000s, Christopher Walken, more cowbell. That's one of the iconic SNL skits I think of, you know? And so he has some of the funniest moments in the history of SNL, but also he was making better movies than Sandler in like the mid 2000s. Like he was better and he was more successful and at a higher hit rate. Like his accuracy, he was just more successful and funnier than Sandler. But Sandler just won like the battle against Father Time, you know, and the battle against comedies and movie theaters, you know. So Farrell definitely should be below Sandler, but they were like titans going at it back in the day.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would just say like Stranger Than Fiction, I always shout that out mid 2000s. Like Will Ferrell's kind of a foray into the dramatic acting. I still wish he did more of that. But like you said, he's kind of like I know he did that Paul Rudd show, Apple TV Plus show, The Therapist, a couple years back, but hasn't really been doing a lot lately. So that's why I kind of like put him down to 2 and Sandler at 1 for me, after Bill Murray.
I was watching a interview with Will Ferrell, who was doing press for his new documentary. Did we look it up? Do you know the name of it?
Oh, sorry.
So as you're looking it up, I'll keep talking about it. But he was doing an interview with Dan Patrick. Will Ferrell. So Dan Patrick posed a question like that made it sound like Will Ferrell has fell off, right? And Will Ferrell responded in a very like aggressive manner in saying like, "Come on, Dan. Like, are you really? You're like, I know." He almost like, "I know I'm washed" type of answer. That I was surprised. Like he's very aware of his standing and where his career is right now, you know, and it's almost like something where is he not doing anything because he feels like he doesn't have to, he has nothing to prove, he's looking for a different challenge. But I think it's more about like people aren't into comedies anymore and he's no longer the draw that he used to be. I just look up that interview if you can watch it. Like that specific answer was really telling about like where he is in life right now.
That's sad to hear. It's Will and Harper, by the way, the documentary on Netflix. Will and Harper.
Yeah.
And like you do think about it, like early 2010s, he still got it. Like the other guys, the one that was just in my head, crap. Anchorman 2, I thought was still good, but like, dude, like mid 2010s, like he has the Sherlock Holmes and Watson movie with John C. Reilly. He has what do you call it? The one with Kevin Hart, Get Hard.
Get Hard.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in theaters with some friends and it's being like that was like probably the moment I was like, he's washed.
Daddy's Home
trilogy with Mark Wahlberg.
It was 2. There's no way they did 3 of those.
I'm gonna double check that. I think there might be a third one.
No shot, dude. Because the sequel had
Daddy's
like
Home.
Lithgow come
Daddy's Home
in.
3.
That came out.
Will it happen?
Oh, so it didn't
All
happen.
right. I guess there isn't
If
one.
they green like that, I'd be like, come on, come on. I think
Well, yeah,
Sherlock Holmes was like that was the nail in the coffin where it's like I think you're done.
yeah. When you're getting with Mark Wahlberg and like Kevin Hart, the Netflix kings, like that's not a good sign. So maybe he is a little washed, but he's still like he wanted to be freaking in the Lakers with Adam McKay, the winning time,
Jerry Buss.
right? So that could have been like a nice little like get right spot. He's producing a lot. He was a producer on Succession, which is obviously successful. So I don't know. I still think there's time. It's just he's got to get his he's got to like lock in on the acting, I think.
I think he's got to be a guy who like kickstarts his own projects, right? And so where he's got to bring something to the table, like Will and Harper was something where it's like outside of his comfort zone, does it, it's being critically acclaimed. I do want to see it. Something that we would not associate with Will Ferrell, with like the bro frat pack type of culture in the mid 2000s.
Right.
But if he has something passionate he wants to do dramatically, I'm so in on that because we saw what it's done to Sandler's career. I think Uncut Gems like kind of put Sandler in like it kind of added another notch in his belt, and this is going to make him last for a little bit longer. He's an Oscar conversation. Will he get nominated? He's working with young, exciting directors. He is making a relationship with those directors in the Safdies. He's got another movie coming out with them. I think it gave him some more life. And there's a path where we could have saw Sandler kind of go into irrelevancy and just making Netflix movies like we see with Wahlberg. I think Uncut Gems just like put him over the map. We need Will Ferrell, put him over the like maintain relevancy. I think Will Ferrell needs a project like that where it's like, wow, he still has it, and then he diversified, and then now he's going to be in our consciousness for the next few years minimum.
Yeah, maybe this kickstarts it. Like, oh, he's getting a lot of press for this. It's like you said, a lot of critical acclaim. Maybe like this is a Kickstarter. Maybe he's gonna get back into the frame here.
Interesting pick because the first two, Murray and Sandler, they have surpassed Father Time. They will be in the consciousness forever. Murray will still make projects too. He's freaking old too, so he doesn't have to do anything, and he's made his mark and he's shown he could do it all. But I'm gonna go Eddie Murphy for my second round pick. This is someone who we thought was making a comeback with Dolomite Is My Name, but he was cast at SNL when he was 18 years old. And he is someone that's kind of credited. It's almost like it's like Bird and Magic saving the NBA. That was like Eddie Murphy coming in to SNL. Like SNL first couple seasons, this is the phenomenon, hits a lull. Here comes Eddie Murphy to be the spark, like Gumby and like all these. He has his own stand-up that's going on. But like after SNL, like 20 years old, he's in 48 Hours with Nick Nolte, and Nick Nolte's very established. But like people are like, who is this kid? Like this kid is the one stealing the show. So 48 Hours, Trading Places, Raw, Delirious, like all of these stand-ups that are hitting at the same time. Like Eddie Murphy at the time was arguably the center of like acting or like the center of entertainment. Like everything came back to Eddie Murphy, and I don't know what's happened over the years, why he fell off. It seems like Norbit seems like a cutting off point with people and audiences and Eddie Murphy. Even in like the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, he's doing some good work. But it seems like Norbit, when he tries to kind of do the Nutty Professor type of thing where he plays a lot of different roles, it just doesn't land whatsoever. That movie's an absolute bomb. I saw it in theaters. I saw that movie in theaters. That seemed like the cutting off point. But he's a legend of the game. Like Dolomite Is My Name could have been the comeback. That was like his Uncut Gems, but really hasn't made anything come after that, right? Nothing's really come clean. But I think here he's just got a level of dominance that I think a lot of these actors that we're going to draft haven't even touched.
Yeah, if I was probably like not as personal with this, he would have been the number 2 pick. Yeah. Honestly. But I went Sandler, Farrell. With Murphy, it's interesting because in the 90s, he did hit a rough spot, right? He did Beverly Hills Cop 3.
That was such a phenomenon, though. Like in the 80s, that's crazy.
In the 80s, was great, the first two. But then he did a third one, flopped. Vampire in Brooklyn, flopped. And then he has like a little bit of a comeback, Nutty Professor, Dr. Dolittle, right? But then, like you said, kind of started going back down. So it's interesting, a little up and down, but obviously the highs are incredibly high. Absolute legend. I also just want to say, you mentioned Dolomite Is My Name, dude. this guy, a lot of people still say he should have won an Oscar for Dreamgirls.
Right. That was also like the uncut gems
And
that
that
he
was during
was
one of his
actually
roles.
nominated. That's crazy.
Yeah. So people were like, oh, like he should have won. Like I know, like there's like hearsay. That's hearsay. But like I don't know. It's like interesting. He has kind of had two of those, those two like uncut gem moments, that we talk about. So it's kind of weird. Will he have a third? Does he need a third? Like he's in an interesting spot. He just did Beverly Hills Cop again. Axel Foley. He did Coming to America, like 2, like America. Like he's in a weird spot right now where he might need another jolt.
Yeah. It's weird that he's had 2 of those. Like Dreamgirls is like 06, 07, 08-ish time period, But then Dolomite's My Name is like 2019. It's like it's way down the line, right? And that was like early days of streaming wars and things like that. That movie was a big deal. People were talking about Oscar consideration. So he needs another one. It's kind of weird that he's had so many highs and lows of his career, but the prime, right? The mid 80s of Beverly Hills Cop, Trading Places, 48 Hours. I don't think many SNL people have had that jolt, right? Have had that prime.
Yeah, 06, Alan Arkin won for Little Miss Sunshine.
Interesting. Is that more of a legacy Oscar? Has Alan Arkin, I think, had already won previous to that.
I'll double check that. But yeah, no, that feels like a legacy Oscar. Like as in like maybe he didn't have an Oscar before. Let me see. He was nominated 4 times total. I don't think he won any of those though.
Let's go on to my next pick. This is going to be interesting. I'm going to go Belushi, dude. I'm going to go John Belushi. This is very tricky because he passed away too soon, right? To see what his actual career would have been, right? Hopefully would have been decades in the comedy sphere or even dramatic sphere. We talked about him doing 1941 with Spielberg. That was a dramatic film that he tries but bombs. One of Spielberg's few misses. But I think when you have that tandem of Blues Brothers and Animal House, that's also like a prime that I'm talking about with Eddie Murphy in the mid 80s. That's something where Belushi was the center of culture, entertainment culture in the late 70s. And he had obviously 1941, but we don't know what else like would have been, what his career would have been like. What's the next project? How successful would that have been? Would he have done more dramatic stuff, right? Going into the future. But the hit rate, basically 66%, but also the icon that is John Belushi, I think deserves to be on the big board. I was initially going to put him later on, but I think I look at these other people here, they fell off so hard and they're not remembered in very fondly. I'm thinking of Belushi, and like the legacy of John Belushi is one of like the one of the most legendary parts about SNL. Like he is the person you think of with Saturday Night Live. So I have to put him at third round, excuse me.
Yeah, I think you said it all there. And his highs are just really high where it's like I would have picked Belushi in one of my next 2 picks. It's not a reach. I think his highs are that high. So now it's a good pick.
Okay. So I think that's pretty much all we could say for Belushi. We talked about him a decent amount during the review, but let's go to your third rounder.
Well, another guy we talked a decent amount in the review is Chevy Chase. And that's going to be my third pick.
I was torn. I was thinking about taking him.
Yeah, I would have picked him over Belushi just because obviously what happened with Belushi. And it like for Chevy Chase, we talked about it famously 1 year on SNL. But you did see why like he was like that he left SNL so early. The movie Saturday Night clearly showcased like this guy is the guy in this movie. And he might have had a poor start post SNL career with Foul Play, Goldie Hawn. But dude, this guy, Caddyshack, Fletch, Three Amigos, Vacation franchise, Chevy Chase is is a comedic legend post SNL. And you could say what you want about him, douchebag or whatever, a terrible person, you could say. This guy, for me, easy pick for me as my next pick, Chevy Chase.
Yeah, so like the movie has fun playing with the idea or the fact that Chevy Chase leaves after the first season, him getting the shoulder tap that he talks about in the movie where he could be the next Johnny Carson, right? He's the first guy on Weekend Update, right? He is the good-looking, charming, afraid of like fearless type of comedian, And then he takes a chance. Like SNL, like after season 1. What's going to happen to SNL when he's gone? Like he kind of seemed like he was the movie star of SNL. And now he goes on and he has a dominant 80s. Like talk about great primes, like the decade length into the early 90s with vacation movies. His legacy is, I think, his like most memorable film is gotta be Christmas Vacation. That's got to be like the movie that sticks with everybody. Everyone watches it every year. You see it on Freeform, AMC, streaming, whatever it may be. The thing with also Chevy Chase, though, is that I picked Belushi over him because people don't seem to have a good relationship with Chevy Chase right now, right? Chevy Chase has gotten that reputation of being a douche, the behind the scenes stories, but also modern day stories of Chevy Chase. Like he is someone that doesn't seem like a nice guy, and audiences don't seem to receive him warmly. That's why I ultimately lean towards Belushi over Chevy Chase, but there's no denying like the talent and like the movies that he collected over the 80s, you know.
Yeah, and Community, that was a great late career like show he did. Like he was awesome on that. Like again, hate him, but he is good. He is a good comedic performer.
Yeah, he was great. He's like just more of a curmudgeon now, you know, and like even Community was like playing with that idea,
Yep.
you know.
Yep, for
And
sure.
I think he appears in the Vacation Legacy sequel with like Ed Helms. I think he shows up at the end of
Yes.
that movie alongside, is it Goldie Hawn? Who's the woman there?
It is Beverly D'Angelo.
Beverly D'Angelo. Goldie Hawn's hotter. Sorry, I didn't mean to. No
Yeah, that's
disrespect.
foul play. Foul play. She was in, but with Chevy Chase. But no, that's like kind of the end of that for my first tier here. And like, sorry, last thing about Chevy Chase, going back in the YouTube rabbit hole, and like I watched a few weekend updates. It's just like he has that like spark, that comedic timing, and it
Charming.
works so well. So I just think like yeah, because now with my next pick, I think there's a clear divide of like everyone else that comes after, great careers, but like still it's just not going to reach these guys. And my next pick is Dan Aykroyd.
Wow. Whoa. I had him a little bit lower on the list here.
I do think like 80s Trading Places, Spies Like Us, Ghostbusters. Obviously, Bill Murray is the star of Ghostbusters Trading Places. Eddie Murphy is the star, I would say. And that's where like I think there's a clear divide of like, all right, guys on SNL, post stardom, clearly stars, all stars, but they're not the legends, icons of the people that we've listed so far. So I got Dan Aykroyd next. And again, I should say as a parameter, I should have asked, like, what are the parameters for like how length of time on SNL, impact on SNL, you know what I'm saying? Because there's a few I could have picked that their careers are better than Aykroyd, but their time on SNL was either not good or it was very short. And I know I picked Chevy Chase, but I thought that was a parameter I wanted to throw out there.
So I do think that like I would say your how long your stint is on SNL. Like if it's like one season, should that qualify? If it's 3 seasons, if it's 2 seasons, if you're on for a couple episodes, does that count? Because there are some iconic actors here. That should have definitely been a parameter. Dan Aykroyd, it was kind of like the linchpin of the first couple seasons when people are coming in and out. Like he's also, we just talked about names that you think of with SNL. Dan Aykroyd's more known for SNL than he is, I think, in anything else he did afterwards, aside from maybe Trading Places and Ghostbusters, like
Yep.
those two, you know. But he is one of the guys who you get SNL Aykroyd, you know, that I think that rolls right off the tongue. I don't think he's done anything really relevant over the last couple decades, to be honest.
Nope.
But I think he's good for like the connection to SNL. I wouldn't have drafted him, but I respect it because you just think of that. This is the post SNL career, but he is SNL as much as more so than a lot of people that we're going to draft.
Yeah. All right. So you're up. What do you got?
Okay, Mike Myers, round
So this
5.
is when I was like, does this count? Like, it's weird.
So round 4, pick 2. How long was this still on SNL? He must have been on for
Well,
at least a couple seasons. I mean, he has the most successful SNL spin-off movie of all time.
yeah, right. Yeah. No. I probably should have picked Mike Myers. All right. I
What so how long do you have it up right now? How long was Mike Myers' stint?
I am looking it up real quick.
I'm on IMDb right now too, so I can plug it in. But this guy, like I said before, Wayne's World, one of the most successful, if probably the most successful SNL spinoff movie. And that has been something that has been so hard for SNL to do, these spinoffs from skits and have them be successful at the box office and received warmly by critics and audiences. I think also when you think about Mike Myers, the late 90s, early 2000s, he might have been the funniest dude alive in terms of comedic movies. We talk about Farrell coming in like mid 2000s, but like early 2000s movies, Mike Myers, outside of Wayne's World, dude, Austin Powers remains hilarious to this day. What he was able to do spoofing like James Bond films, right? The characters, him doing what Eddie Murphy can do, playing different characters. You see him and like it's like the ism of a Mike Myers movie. Like even going back to how I Married an Axe Murderer, him playing multiple roles, okay, and then him doing the same thing with Austin Powers. Those movies are just a sticking point for me. I find them so rewatchable and I find them hilarious. And yeah, so I'm gonna go him for fourth round.
He was on for a long time. I don't know. I thought he was only on like very shortly, like for the Wayne's World, and then
6 seasons.
yeah, but like 6 seasons. I think like was he officially a cast member for 6 seasons? Like a cast member? I don't think so. I think he was a cast member for like 1 or 2.
It says in 1988 when he joined Saturday Night Live, where he spent 6 seasons, he brought to life many memorable characters. Excuse me, I'm reading this. He brought to life many memorable characters such as the Dieter and Wayne Campbell. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it doesn't go. Okay, well, also a guy where, he's in a Quentin Tarantino movie, right? He's in Bohemian Rhapsody. So he's kind of dabbled, never fully committed, but in like the dramatic acting kind of turn or kickstart. But that's why I think he's kind of like lower on this list because he's not as talented, in my opinion, as like, I don't know, Adam Sandler or Will Ferrell.
He also had the 90s, early 2000s prime. That is powerful, but kind of like defined by franchises between Austin Powers and Shrek. I'm looking at like how much he made for like the movies during that time period. So Austin Powers and Goldmember, he made $25 million. And he also got 21% of the film's gross. That's what it was, 25 million with the film's gross. And then Shrek 2, he made $10 million for a voice role. 10 million. The first Shrek, 3 million, him replacing another SNL cast member that might get drafted here. And How I Married an Axe Murderer, $2 million. Wayne's World, he only made $1 million. It's just interesting to look at. Okay. Next round, 5. Pick one from Dr. O. I'm going to go. I just hinted at him, so I might as well draft him to continue the conversation. I'll go Chris Farley. Okay. Chris Farley, a lot of times the comparisons go to John Belushi. I was beloved by the cast, party animal, and
Fired.
Okay. Think about his relationship with Adam Sandler. I think about the people that talk about Chris Farley after his death, like people now, interviews. I'll listen to Sandler on Rogan talk about him. Okay. Rob Schneider talks about him. Spade talks about him. Right. I don't listen to much of the Dana Carvey show, the podcast he has. Right. But maybe I'll get into that more because I heard it's awesome. But he also is someone with Tommy Boy, Black Sheep. Not the best movies, but Tommy Boy has kind of gone on to be a cult classic, one of the most, I guess, during the late 90s period, I think it's one of the most rewatchable comedies. And like him and the partnership with David Spade becomes really notable. So I'll go with him, who has also like Down by the River, like some of the most iconic SNL skits of all time. And a lot of people did view him as like the next Belushi, also mirrors how he died so early and tragically. So I'll go with him at round 5.
Yeah, obviously very similar to Belushi in this draft, where short-lived career, but obviously very impactful, right? So no, that's a solid pick. I personally wouldn't. I was thinking about drafting Farley, but I still think like since we're doing the comparisons, like Belushi, I think his impact was incredibly higher on
Far
SNL.
greater.
So that's kind of where I was like, do I draft him? Do I not?
Round 5.
Yeah, round 5. All right, so due to bad research, I didn't pick Mike Myers. That's on me. So I'm just gonna ask the question: is Billy Crystal available in this draft?
I don't know,
because he came back to SNL, right? Because obviously the movie depicts his scene got cut, right? He leaves SNL and never on it really, But then he comes back after doing Soap, the TV show, which was successful. And then after that, obviously when Harry Met Sally, like Princess Bride, Running Scared, like this City Slickers, like this guy became a huge movie star. So I feel like it does count.
How long was he on?
Uh, in the 80s. So
It says here Crystal would return as a cast member from 1984 to 1985 and host the show twice.
he was on for
Okay.
1 or 2 seasons.
1 or 2 seasons. If he's on for at least a season, I think you're allowed to do it.
Okay, I'm picking him. Just like that run afterwards is awesome. So
I
that
love
late
Billy
80s,
Crystal.
90s run. What?
I'm a huge Billy Crystal guy.
Really? So you like what were your thoughts in the movie like when he's basically getting cast aside here?
I thought it sucked for him, it's this, but it's also amazing when you think about Billy Crystal, how he gets treated like that and he does a successful show and then he goes back to do a season of SNL. That is such an unorthodox trajectory for an SNL cast member. Like usually this is their big break and then they launch from there. And he was like, it kind of speaks to what SNL was, I guess, culturally at the time, where it's like successful show moving on to SNL, showing like I can now do almost like a solo, like I'm breaking off from the band and I gotta kind of prove my chops again. I can show I don't need this soap show. So I think it's kind of cool. But like City Slickers, when Harry Met Sally is such a banger of a movie. It is so good, Ricky Flicks. I watch it during the fall. I'm due to watch When Harry
I'm
Met
due as
Sally.
well. I'm
He,
overdue. I haven't watched that in a few years.
dude,
Maybe longer.
but I think Billy Crystal, as we grew up, what he became known for is obviously When Harry Met Sally, but also like he was the guy who hosted the Oscars all the time. Like he was
You know?
a great at working a crowd. He was like a cleaner stand-up comedian. He's someone that I find hilarious. And analyze this, amazing performance,
Great.
so good with De Niro, like just underrated. I think I love Billy Crystal. I think it's a good pick. As long as he was on for at least a season, I don't see anything wrong with it. I just don't know any SNL skits from him.
Yeah, and that kind of also goes to like not bit like compared to like Farley's, where it's like what is he known for? He's not known for SNL. He's
Right.
known for how big of a star he is, and again, like he's a guy where I won't say to the same extent as Bill Murray, but it's like, oh, it's Billy Crystal. He's like a figure. And today he's like, in 2024, he's like a guy where it's like everyone goes like, oh, it's Billy Crystal. He's the man.
Yeah. And Billy Crystal, he's kind of the opposite of your Dan Aykroyd pick. You know, I think Dan Aykroyd like is so synonymous with SNL, and he did have success directly after SNL. Like Billy Crystal is not really known. I didn't even realize he was going to be in the movie Saturday Night. Like I
Yeah,
didn't know. Like that was shocking to me. He is important, I guess, to that origin story, and also teasing like how like it was a star making type of show for a lot of different people. And people wanted to be on the show, but he is not someone synonymous with it. But he's so much bigger post SNL. He's kind of just like the reverse of Aykroyd, I thought. Okay, let me read through the draft, and then we'll go to honorable mentions because we can list a few. Dr. O for the post SNL career draft. He has Bill Murray, Eddie Murphy, John Belushi, Mike Myers, and Chris Farley. Ricky Flicks has Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, and Billy Crystal. A lot of big names in comedy there, Ricky Flicks. It makes you miss the good old days